Hello, fellow dreamer, and welcome to the fifth and last episode of Startup Ignition. Your journey begins here. I'm Victoria, your host and guide on this exciting journey into the world of startup. I will answer all the questions you ask yourself when you want to launch your first startup. But before we dive into today's topic, let me introduce our speaker, Zoe, my colleagues from Plug and Play.
Hi, Victoria. Pleasure to be here. Hi, everyone. My name is Zoe, and I've been at Plug and Play for the past 2 years and a half alongside Victoria. And my background has been mostly in digital innovation in the retail fashion industry. And at Plug and Play, I still work in this area looking at how we can innovate on the whole value chain of a fashion brand and retailers, e-commerce in general, so the future of commerce, from delivery to payments to marketing tech, as well as circular economy and etc.
Thank you, Zoe. I'm really happy to have you today. So we're going to talk about how to get funding from first-time founders. So first of all, Zoe, why should startup get funding?
Yes, I really think that getting funding will help you go much quicker and further than your competitors that don't get funding. So it really depends on how ambitious you are. You really could start your company without getting funding, and also being successful. It's just it won't be as bigger as your competitors. Right?
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's a real boost for a company to get funding. It's a big injection of cash. You can improve your sales, marketing, but also the product. So it's a big help. But on the other hand, to have funding from good investors, it's a lot of credibility, no? What do you think about that? Like the credibility and the network from VCs investors?
Yeah, I mean, you don't have everything as a team, right? Sometimes you have younger teams that don't have all of the experiences that ex-entrepreneurs who have become also investors have, and it just helps so much, right, to get the network.
The help also because they give you advice during your journey.
And it can be help on even like recruitment or product. So I think that insights and advice on a day-to-day is definitely key, and the network that it brings you from like their network of investors, but also their portfolio companies, and if you look at the best VCs, then it gives you like a brand name as well. It contributes to your image and the credibility of your team and company.
And how to find the right investor?
I'd say that the first part is understanding what type of investors you're looking for, right? So depending on the products and the geography that you're in, first look at your product and what you're building, and look at the geography and where you want to expand as well after you're building your product. So you should look at investors that are local and also that are in markets that you want to expand in. So you also need to think that in the medium term, and look at the past successes of investors. So what companies they've invested in, how successful these companies have been. But depending on what they have invested, you'll know if they have the knowledge and the expertise that they need to bring you and your team.
Also, we need to, also they need to make sure that they didn't invest in your direct competitor, because it will be like a conflict. But I feel like when a startup is trying to look for investors, they have to reach them out, and they need to really target the right stage, right industry, as you were saying, also like geography. So how to be hot from investor perspective? So we are both investor at Plug and Play. We meet so many startups every day. What do you like? What you don't like? But let's start with how to be hot from investors.
I'd say that the moment that you start talking to investors and you talk about your network and who you know in the industry and what you've done in the industry that is relevant to what you're building now, directly, like my mind goes ding, you know. I'm like, okay, first of all, you have a experience on the ground, and you also seem to be knowing the people in the space, and that's two things that bring me a lot of confidence right away. There are many other things, but what do you think are like the two first things? Or
So one of the first thing is when they know how to run great the conversation, where they are comfortable, not stressed. They've been doing that for a while. They have also like the network is super important in terms of investor, but also for sales. So for me, the network is one of the key thing here. But how do they talk to the investor? It's also like a good way, and also to don't show to an investor that they just like are looking for money desperately, not looking for our past like experiences, and they will take any type of money from whoever wants to give them money. I think it's like in flirting, you know, like if you are trying to flirt with a guy or a girl, and like you feel that for me a guy, like the guy can go with any girls, like it will be less attractive for me. I would like to find a guy that will like be selective, because if not, I will think that I'm like any type of girl.
yeah,
What
yeah.
do you think?
That they know also what they want out of the investor, and in general as well, like the way to make it to position yourself as a hot investment, a hot deal, is to show that you've had some sort of result or traction. It doesn't even have to be like revenue. It just have to be like confirmation that you're gonna have clients in the next couple of months, or just showing that you've built something, some sort of traction even before pitching. If you're a very early stage company, I mean.
Do you have any advice to how to run a conversation with a VC? In the third episode, we talk a little bit about how to build the pitch deck and how to pitch it, but would love to have your investor point of view.
When managing a conversation with the investor starts even before like meeting the investor, I'd say. It depends on if you're reaching out if the startup is reaching out to the VC, or if the VC is reaching out to them, or if it's like a intro that is made. But I feel like right away you need to make them want to meet you a little bit, even like saying, introducing yourself and your company, and showing like maybe a couple of latest traction that excites you a little. And then the moment that you have the conversation, the first call with the investor, try to connect with the investor in some way. Try to do a little bit of like how do you call it? Soft talk, quick talk.
Like small talk.
Small talk.
Exactly. And to give like little bit of excitement, as you say, like you need to make a vibration, like.
Yeah, and try to also understand how, before you're meeting with the investor, what type of investor are you talking to? Is it you think that is someone that knows about your topic? Is it someone that's going to bring you to the right person afterwards? And depending on that, also try to tailor your conversation on how much you think they know on the topic, because that's
tricky.
That's I know it's tricky. It's tricky.
But you can ask the question to the investor directly. Like at the beginning of the meeting, like usually the investor introduces themselves, the VC, and if you're not sure about the knowledge of the person in front of you, like ask as many questions as you need. Like it's really like, and the VC will appreciate. Like who doesn't appreciate when we ask them questions? Like
exactly.
You know, it shows interest. It shows that you are selective. So
yeah, asking question is key. And I'd say that don't share too much information, also like your deck and big paragraphs before even meeting the investor. You want to show them that that they need to wait a little bit, right? They need to wait to meet you. They need to play a little bit hard to get, you know. And then when you meet them actually during the first meeting, ask them exactly like Victoria said, how much they know about the topic, and if they'd like to directly see your pitch deck, or just learn a little bit more about what they're doing. But I'd say that one thing to start with, when you kick off the conversation or the pitch is tell them about your story and how you got there. They will ask for it, but it's always good when you tell about yourself before just talking about your product directly, because it brings some context.
And what was your worst startup call?
Good question.
You didn't had like a startup where like really it was like a suffer like to be there, and like you were like, I don't know how to be like not rude and stay polite, and just like you just like thinking that the startup is like should not be there, like it's not on the right track, should not even like go to VCs, or just like they are running their like pitch deck without even like ask you like any question, and just like talk for 30 minutes without even like notice if you're still there or not.
Yeah, I say that the worst meeting that I've had is with founders that are completely out of track with the market and what they're building. So it's less of a conversation. Let me think about it. What did you have like?
I had once, like it was terrible. Like I had so I had an analyst who just started, so she joined the meeting and I let her like lead it, because like just like it was one of her first. And I was so happy she was leading it, because I couldn't even listen to the guy. Like, it was like out of scope completely, not even like matching what he sent us before. And then he didn't ask question about plug and play, about what we were doing. And he just like shared his screen and ran into his pitch deck for like 30 minutes, like with no stop. And it was not even like VC backable. The guy was nice, but when you understand that there are like so many red flags, even in the way to like talk, you need to like sit down, like ask questions, have like little discussion before, like even if you start pitching your pitch deck, But it was like just like, I think the guy was just super stressed, so he just did what he had to do, and it was just that. And it was terrible. Even my analyst after like texted me like saying like, hope we will never get another meeting like this. But yeah. So what's the red flags for you if you didn't have like this terrible
I
call?
think that the answering to what you said, definitely being concise is something that is hard to do. Sometimes the first meeting is 30 minutes, so going over and kind of answering questions in a very, very unconcise manner is something that is a bit of a red flag in the way that you converse and manage the conversation, because you think that even with your clients you won't be able to be super clear. So I'd say that those are the type of conversation that usually go a bit better.
And without talking about conversation, like usually like what's your red flag? So we have a list of red flag from Plug and Play, but I feel we have our own list. So what's yours?
I'd say that some of the red flags would be the size of the market, definitely. If I don't feel like the problem is big enough, that already tells me, well, is it sellable enough? How much people are going to be willing to, and companies be willing to pay for it? Is it really needed, right? The consistency as well in the conversation that the founders have with the investors. If I feel like there's some questions that there's a little bit of hesitancy, or the answer is a little bit different from my previous calls, or I feel like they're not super comfortable answering it, it tells me a little bit about they might not want to share too much about it, or that something went wrong, or maybe a bit lying, or
like they're hiding something. I join you on the question. Like if they don't answer like straightforward to the question, also like either it's weird, or either you think that they don't really know what they are doing. Like they need to answer clearly to each question. Like you need to answer clearly to each question, straightforward, concisely, and make sure that like you are being transparent. Because if you are lying on anything, like it's more than a red flag. It's like a no-go, And not only on this startup, and all the other startup that you will launch. We really need transparency.
What are some of the
Red
flags
flags.
that you think?
One weird red flags about the team that I have, like if they are like husband and wife. Like
You think?
I don't like some people they say like yeah if they are brother and sister family it's a red flag. Me it's more like husband and wife. Like you always have fight when you're husband
Yeah, I
and
get it.
wife and how it cannot interact on your business and like it's too much I think. So some people really work well together and like make it well at home too. But for me it will be like it's not a no-go but it's more a red flag.
Yeah, no, I get it. Brothers and like people from the same family, I think it's okay.
Yeah, I like it. They know each other, they know how to work together, they don't live together. Like they can make some distance even if they had some family fight, you know.
Another red flag is if you come alone and as a solo founder. I'd say that's. I wonder why you just didn't want to do it with someone else as well, because you know that you always need a second opinion, and you're always better off with someone else that accompanies you and complements your skills, right? So I always wonder why they weren't able to find someone, or is it because you have a plan, or they have a plan to recruit a late co-founder, and then if you explain that well, to the investors, then it's okay. But if you don't really have a plan in terms of having a co-founder, or if you don't really explain why you're on your own, yeah, I see that as a red flag.
Yeah, I think also like it can maybe show, but maybe we are wrong, but that the founder is not able to work with someone else.
Yeah.
And so how they can hire a team if they are solo founder, because if they can't work with other people, it's hard to hire, it's hard to delegate, and if you can't grow a team, you can't grow a startup, it's not possible. So yeah, I
No,
completely agree.
You need to think about how you're right. We might be wrong, right?
Yeah.
The founder is just didn't find someone that wants to build the company at this time, but I feel like
right
he can.
timing,
Yeah.
it's like you need to have right timing, the right people, the right time, yeah.
But from the perspective of the VC, we want to lower as much the risk, right? So exactly. Lowering our risk is well, this person might not be someone that works well in a team, and because especially for early stage companies that Plug and Play looks at, the team is the most important, or one of the most important. So we want to be able to lower as much the risk on the team. So I'd say that's like the big one of the big red flags as well.
Yeah, after I see other red flags, but more in an advanced way, like if you are raising your second round and none of your previous investors invest in the second round, it's not a good sign usually, so we can consider it as a red flag. Also, like to talk to customers. If none of your customer wants to talk to your investor, it's a red flag. We are worried, As you said, like we want to lower as much as we can the risk, so we need to be comfortable with everything. We need to be really transparent. Everything needs to be accessible.
Yeah, that's a good point. Even sharing contact of your customers, but also sharing information in general about your company. Also, the time that it takes you to get some funds shows, obviously communicates something to the investors, right? So yeah. You need to be able to, and it's hard because there's a product to build on the side, but fundraising is something that you need to really commit and dedicate yourself a lot of time to do it. And so really have a clear timeline of your fundraising process and what you need to do to get to reach to that timeline and to get what you want, in order to create momentum, to create some hype. And a lot of investors talk to each other, and if it takes a bit too much time, then we're human, we're wondering why, and trying to find excuses, and then it just loses that momentum a little bit. So we're wondering from the perspective of the investor, how come there isn't a little bit more traction on why you're not getting funds, and that can be a flag.
Yeah, completely. And then also on the timeline, so if you took like a lot of time to build your product, then a lot of time to get your first customers or your revenue, like it can, like we want to invest in fast growing startups. So if you take time to do everything, for us it will like we won't believe that you will grow really, really big, because at some point you will be stopped because you take too much time. My ideal would be like in a pre-seed startup that is born like a couple of months ago with already first clients, first like few customer, first few revenue, stellar team with like 2 or 3 co-founders, equity split like really equally, and if not equally, we need to have reason, not too much equity dedicated to advisors, or even to, if you go to an accelerator program, like except of YC, I would say don't give 7%. Like it doesn't make sense, and you are too diluted for the pre-seed investors. These are like also some red flags, some things that we don't like. But also to really point on that, we interview a couple of VC here. So we interview a total of 18 VC from Serena, Elaya, First Bridge Ventures, One Rack Time, Sista Fund, and many more. And we ask them a couple of questions. So the first question is obviously like if they invest in pre-product and pre-revenue, and what are their requirements. So it really goes on the way what you were saying. So it's the team.
Yeah.
What really the things that come over and over is the team. So can you explain like why the team is so important?
It's really the foundation of any company. Like without the team, nothing is being built, and so it really starts this from there, and that's why when there isn't no revenue or product or customers, we can only look at what the team has done in the past, which helps us predict what they can do in the future. And yeah, I mean that's the reason why.
Yeah.
That's the only tangible thing that we can
judge,
have, right?
Yeah. And it's the structure of the startup at the end of the day. Like if there is no founders, there is no startup, and you're the one raising fund, making sales, building the product. So it's really the most important.
And even with like larger companies or any companies in general, many times when things go wrong, it's because of how team is structured or management decisions, and that all comes down to the first people who created the company. So you're trying to, as an investor, see how big that company can be with the people that you're meeting in the founding team. So yeah.
Yeah, completely agree. Another thing that came up on the survey is that within a VC, like anybody source, but most of the sourcing come from other VC. So that's why connection and network is so important. And just put yourself at the place of the investor. If you meet someone like through a friend or a friend of a friend, you're always more confident. It's easier. Everything is better, So it's the same with the VC game. When we got introduced, we are really much more reassured than if it's like coming from internet, like how many crazy people you've met on Tinder, for example, What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I definitely think that maybe should we explain a little bit how plug and play works?
Let's go for plug and play.
On a high level basis, and every VCs also have their own. Also, that's a good thing to add, is that maybe ask a little bit about how the process at the VC works in terms of their due diligence process, and what are the steps they take to in the whole fundraising process. Obviously, it depends if it's a lead investor or follower investor, but as a follower investor, plug and play, most of the investors, be it if you're an analyst or a senior associate, you can go through the whole process of meeting a company, assessing whether it's worth meeting them a second and third time, and for them to meet someone else from the team or someone more senior. And usually there's a couple of people working on the same project and same deal, because the way that our partners also hear about a deal or see a deal is if there are different people that want to work on this due diligence and the project and are excited about the project, it's also a layer of trust
Yeah,
on
it's
top.
internal traction.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
completely. And I like in the survey that we ran, we saw that also like you mentioned that analyst source. So I'll plug and play like analysts source the biggest number of startups. Like we are hired to like analysts are really hired to source and source. Like they have KPIs on sourcing. Like this is really they push on it. But on all the VC that we ask, all the analysts also like source. They are the ones that do the most like reaching out, and they can all bring deals. So I don't know if you heard that analysts can't bring deals internally, but that's not the case at all. The only risk that we can have with an analyst that they may not pitch super well your startup to like people like above, and that's why like they will like convert less deal because they have like less credibility. But if you know that you have an analyst in front of you, you have to make sure that they understood better, like good what you're doing, and like if they didn't understood like good what you're doing, it means that you don't pitch well.
Yeah, yeah. Don't be. Sometimes some founders have a lot of experience and they want to, or yeah, they have a lot of experience, be it professionally or even by building their own startup before, and they want to talk directly to a partner. And when an analyst talks to them or reaches out to them, they say they want to speak directly to the partner. I think what you said is great. Like take the time, show that you're fine to also work through the process of the VC. You're okay to adapt a little bit and find a way to pitch very well to the analyst so that it's easy for them to then communicate it. I couldn't agree more on this.
Yes, and at the end of the day, the team matters the most. Even like when you're early stage and when you're first time founder, like this is like your team, but also like all the work you do today as a first time founder, first fundraising, first project, first customers, all of that, this is like what you're building. Like you're building like your little knowledge for your like next fundraising, next ventures, next whatever. And like even if it's hard today and you feel that it's impossible to raise fund, you just need to build more. So how do you think like first time founders should do if like they have a great team but they can't manage to raise fund? Why, like what should they do?
Yeah, I mean, not everyone has that experience before, so I'd say try to find any bit of money you can find from business angels or from your family, from your friends. Find some accelerators that you can participate in that can bring a layer of credibility, or also look at government funds.
Yeah, and whenever you have that, just try to build some traction, like a useful product, show that people are attracted like from your product, they want to use it, and after that you have this. I think you're good to go, and no worries if you struggle a lot, you will make it. Thank you so much, Zoe, for being here. It was a pleasure having you and having all of your insights for our first-time founders.
Thank you, Victor. I think that it's great what you're doing. Founders should be always thinking about also looking at advice from investors, and a podcast like that is great. So yeah, it's great to see in general that you're providing these insights. Thank you for having me.
We just conclude our last episode of Startup Ignition. Your journey begins here. I hope you enjoy. So we review in our first episode how to find the co-founders and how to find an idea, how to build your pitch deck. Then we had a story time from Bernardo, co-founder of Stack AI. And today we had Zoe, investor at Plug and Play, who gave us our insights. I would like to tell you good luck. Please take all of this advice and make your journey the best as you can. I'm sure you will manage to raise funds. I know how it can be hard and how investors can be harsh on founders, but maybe you just need some little adjustment. If you enjoyed this episode and all the other, and I'm sure you did, please don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. To support this podcast, and it's going to be other season coming next, you can also follow us on LinkedIn, talk about us to your fellow dreamers, and even more, help us to help you better, please reach me out and ask me your question. See you in the next season in Victoria's podcast. Thank you so much.